It is a little bit different than our past records.
I'm really loving Simply Flying, and to be honest, it was doing my head in when I was listening to the album. What does this band sound like?
I wanted to get a little more of that studio sound from the later 70s period.
Today we're lucky to have Oberon Rose join us, and Tommy Oberon from Oberon Rose join us all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, and they're just releasing their fifth album, The Sun Stood Still. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start off with the first question, mate. Album number 5. Can you tell us a little about the new album, what kind of theme that we're going to be expecting on album number 5?
Well, it is a little bit different than our past records in the sense of the flow of it and the I think it has a little bit more of a classic album flow, and rather than just a bunch of songs we wrote that we kind of put in. I mean, I've always had the idea of a larger concept around all of our albums, but I think this one is a little more realized. The way the album starts is a little more like it has a little softer start to it and kind of builds up gradually, and whereas the other albums kind of had two like back to back, kind of barnstormer kind of songs.
Yeah, and look, I love that first song, Turning On. Then you go into the second song, Heartbeat for the Underdog. I love how it all sort of kicks in like that. Now, you've got Rebecca, who isn't here today, who's your songwriting partner, and she handles the lyrics and you're handling the music side of things. Did the process change at all for this album, or has it generally been the same with all of your albums so far?
No, it's generally the same. I mean, the process is generally usually how it works is, it's very simple. I mean, I'm sure it's not that unique in the grand game of the way people write together, but for us, it's just, I'm a guitar player first. So usually the songs start with a riff or a chord progression that for some reason I start to get ideas for it. It inspires me enough to, well, let me see what I could do with that. Sometimes I have a line or two that just comes to me from working on it. And then I bring it to Rebecca, and she writes the rest of it. She just takes it from there.
So
Yeah.
she wouldn't come to you with a theme, maybe like to be. It usually comes from you yourself, and then maybe going to Rebecca and then working it up from there.
It usually starts with me, though. With this album, the one thing that was a little different about it is that she did come to me with the title, "The Sun Stood Still," before we even started writing for it. She just had the title, and I thought, "Oh, that sounds a great album title." And then I thought, maybe we can have a song, with that title too. And so, um, I did, I did have some music, and I had some ideas going at the time, and I just found it in one of the pieces of music that I was kind of, working on at that point. It was like just that line fit perfectly in that song. And so then I brought it to her, and she wrote the rest from there.
Yeah, and so let's dig a little bit deeper into the album tracks in particular. I mean, I'm loving Back to You. That's a really radio friendly kind of song. But towards the end of the album, Tommy, I'm really loving Simply Flying. And to be honest, it was doing my head in when I was listening to the album. What does this band sound like? And it's got a little bit of Jayhawks for me, mate. I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. Is there a particular song that's the heart of the album for you?
That's the heart of the album. Wow, that's difficult. I think in a way, Back to You is almost it's almost like a quintessential Oberon Rose song right now, because it it's it kind of sums up our pop sensibility, as well as, you know, having some guitar playing at the end, and also it's the first song to really feature um, Rebecca on lead vocals in the bridge. Uh, so it kind of like it everything kind of coalesced in that song on this album. I don't know if I would consider it the heart of the album, but it's kind of it could be a runner up for that position for me, you know. But yeah, Simply Flying I think is probably Rebecca's favorite on the album.
Yeah, I love both of those tracks. I love Simply Flying as well as Back to You. And have you road tested any of those songs live yet? I'm interested to know if Back to You is getting a reception, or other songs are doing similar things.
No, we haven't. We just basically wrote the album, and I think we basically wrote the album last summer, the beginning of last summer, started recording it midsummer, and then all through the rest of the year, I was working on it. Now it's finally here. So yeah, it took a while to do. I mean, but not as long as our past records. I mean, this was in a way, one of the easiest records I've made, and I knew I wanted it to be 8 songs, even though there's technically 9 tracks. The instrumental is really just that was actually how the song "Goodbye to Yesterday" started. It's actually the same chord progression as "Goodbye." That's what's kinda tagged on the front of it. Um, it started as that instrumental, and then, just I had the idea, "Let me see if I could flesh that out into a f song," and I did, and then we wrote "Goodbye to Yesterday" out of it. Um, but I thought the instrumental still sounded cool, and I thought it would be a cool idea to have just a little acoustic guitar, uh, beginning to a song, but I didn't wanna have it be part of the song because if someone wants to play it on the radio, I wanted them to be able to get right to the main song, without having to do the instrumental first, because that might deter somebody. They don't want an acoustic guitar instrumental on a rock, indie station.
Well, unless you do a radio edit. So like a
Yeah,
lot of the songs that do the radio edits, right?
that do the radio edit.
Yeah.
So, Tommy, I guess during this process, yeah, as you mentioned, the the album was kind of flowing in a way that you wanted it to. Were there any particular albums or bands that you were kind of listening to that kind of supported that process? Like, is there a particular band that you're just loving that influenced this album at all?
Not particularly. I mean, I tend to still listen to my favorites, but I did know that in the past I had leaned more towards maybe an early '70s, kind of late '60s vibe in terms of recording. Um, but this time I wanted to get a little more of that studio sound from the later '70s period. Because I am a big fan of that sound, like you know some of the later Eagles sound, his albums sounds and stuff. Um, and so uh, I knew I wanted to kind of go for more of that sound, and I felt like I can get it, because also it's kind of like the Beatles kind of set that sound in motion, you know, um, with Abbey Road and stuff. It really kind of is the precursor to that um, really refined studio sound that you had in the later '70s. Um, and so I kind of wanted to get it to that point where I felt it was a little bit closer to that. Um, and so or like a '70s Tom Petty record, you know what I mean? Something where it had that kind of close mic, um, you know, sound to it.
Mm.
So that was kind of you know, my thinking on it, rather than having it modeled after a specific album or band or being
Yeah.
inspired by it. It was more of a sound that I was going for.
Yep. Yep.
And you can
Awesome.
definitely hear that coming through. I mean, you reference Abbey Road more or less is a 70s album in a way, obviously late 60s, right? But it's obviously a template for a lot of the sounds that you heard in the next decade. But um, now I understand you have moved from New York. You're based in Nashville at the moment, and been for a little while. But Nashville's interesting, right? Because you say Nashville and you say country music. But there is a lot of rock artists, and it kind of punches above its weight, I reckon, in terms of a lot of the acts you get out. But has that changed? I guess the way you've approached writing albums. I know you've been in Nashville for a little while, but yeah, interested to know what the move actually meant for you.
Well, interestingly enough, I think there was always a little bit of country music um, in the at as sort of like a backbone to our writing process, not intentionally, but my mother was a big country music fan, so um, I heard it a lot as a kid, and I think it just like ingrained into me, that kind of acoustic guitar vocal style songwriting, where it's kind of starts like that, you know, um, and where songs, should be able to be played like that to be a real song. Um, and so it was always kind of there. Um, I mean, maybe Nashville has brought it out a little more, um, but definitely, I think it has affected us in terms of being um, more inspired to focus on our songwriting um, and uh, working on our catalog overall to just keep producing more stuff. I think because there's so much music down here, and there is a lot of live music, um, but songwriting is such a big part of what the city is. Uh, but I think it has kind of inspired us to do more of that. That's what I would say.
Awesome. And just a couple more questions to wrap up today, Tommy. Look, BJ and I are from Australia. BJ's in Melbourne. I'm in Tasmania. Don't even know if you know where Tasmania is, mate. We're kind of like we're like the Nashville of of Australia here. Um, any plans to come to Australia? What do you think of Australia? What do you think of when someone says the word
I've
Australia?
always heard good things about Australia. I would love to come there. I don't know how long that would take to fly out there. Probably like what 11, 12 hours or something, 15 hours.
Ooh, I think more like
Yeah.
15. So yeah, yes, it's a long time on a plane.
If there was a demand for us to be there, we'd be there. But I don't know. We kind of just be unknown out there. But maybe you guys will help with that.
Let's hope
Hopefully.
so. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. And what are the next few months looking like for you guys? Like touring, sort of promotional gigs.
So right now, the album's coming out. Well, this will air when the album's out, right? So, um, our next project in line is we're gonna be doing a series of live, like in studio kind of clips, where we're gonna do songs from the album, um, live in the studio. We're not sure on the location yet, but um, probably more in a recording studio setup that has um, video capabilities. There's a lot of different things like that down here. Um, and so we're looking at doing something like that so we can get um, live performances out over the web, so people can see what we do, that it's authentic and it's real people making real music, you
Mm.
know. Um, So that's the next thing on the table for us.
So the album is out on 8th of August. You can get it on Bandcamp. We'll post a link in the description. If you're interested in purchasing the record, Tommy, really appreciate your time. We've had a few technical difficulties. It's 6 p.m. or it's nearly 7 p.m. now in Nashville. So you've probably got a lot of other things that you'd be wanting to do on a Saturday night. But thank you very much for your time and good luck with the album.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me, and it was great to meet you guys.